You're listening to Live Wild Radio, the part-time adventure podcast.
Join us as we explore how outdoor adventures build mind, body, and spirit.
So this episode's brought to you by our friends at Great Lakes Gear Ya. You've heard us talk about them before. They're our favorite fitness companies. They ship to Canada. They ship to the U.S. If you happen to live like us in the Waterloo region, in just outside of Toronto, you can go pick it up and not pay any shipping. But these guys have kettlebells, barbells, squat racks, pull-up bars, gymnastics rings, maces, bumper plates, dumbbells, all of the stuff you need to get in fabulous shape with your killer home gym. Because yes, gyms might be open again, but as you've heard us talk over and over again about different workouts, being able to work out on your time, get in a 15-minute workout without having to leave the house, that can be life-changing. So even if you just pick yourself up a couple of kettlebells so you can do some swings and snatches and presses, some goblet squats and Turkish get-ups, all of our favorite exercises, if you go to greatlakesgearya.com or us.greatlakesgearya.com if you're our American friends, and at checkout, you use promo code LIVEWILD, you'll save 5%. And it helps because they give us a little bit. You don't pay any more. In fact, you save, and it helps. So head over to greatlakesgearya.com and pick up any fitness equipment you need. Welcome back to Live Wild Radio. This is Winston. Normally, we just cut right into our episodes, sort of get to hear them all, or, right from the beginning. But sometimes technology gets in the way. So I'm recording an intro for this one. So in this episode, we speak to Brendan Baars, who is a boulderer and a route developer from Michigan. But what's cool is because they don't have a lot of rock climbing in Michigan, he drove up to northern Canada, or northern Ontario, up around Elliot Lake, and discovered an area that he dubbed the Goldmine. Beautiful granite rock, lots of boulders. So this episode is a discussion with him on how to find and develop and what goes into developing a new rock climbing area. Anybody who climbs and you go to cliffs and crags and boulders that have trails and the rocks clean, it doesn't happen that way on its own. So you'll find out how that happens. And as a kind of cool side note, if you are getting this episode sort of the first week it came out, Catherine and I will be down in the fine state of Kentucky, leaving our country for the first time in 2 years, to do some climbing in the Red River Gorge, and going to be doing some mountain biking when we're down there too. Going to be visiting Miguel's Pizza because you can't go to the Red without visiting Miguel's. Probably going to camp there, and if all goes according to plan, we'll get to have a podcast with some climbers from that area. So enjoy this episode with Brendan and.
Which is pretty cool that you found Northern Ontario even before most people have, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a giant untapped rock everywhere. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's everywhere. I mean, around Sudbury. I mean, the Sudbury people, they have their own community of climbers, and that's pretty much it up there. And they know about the surrounding area around Sudbury. But I mean, going outside an hour outside of Sudbury, and there's there's bluffs, cliffs, boulders everywhere.
So what inspired you to look in this area? You trekked over the border to check us out.
Yeah, well, correct. So first you have to understand that Michigan, it doesn't have any rocks in it, at least the lower peninsula. So the closest climbing destinations to us are minimum 6 hours away, at least decent climbing. So it's like the same distance to Niagara as it is to the Nooks.
Oh, okay.
And the Nooks of which you founded and developed.
Yes.
Like this has got Goldmine, and it's got, you know, as the pun or the label says, a gold mine of more rocks.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, Michigan, as I said, just has no rocks, and we have to travel everywhere to climb. And we had heard that there was some easy sport and easy trad north of the Sioux. And two of my buddies actually went up and checked it out. So one of them showed me a video of Gus Alexandropoulus and his video of the eyeball and the development they've been doing over there. And I watched that video and I was like, holy cow, where is that? Like, I want to go there. And so I messaged him, and he immediately got back to me and he said, hey, I'll be up there next week. You should come up. And I said, whoa, that's really random. I have a day off of work, or 2 days off of work next week. I'll meet you up there. And I went and saw it, and it was amazing.
Yeah. The thing that sucks with that one is the fact that it's so inaccessible.
Yes.
Right. Because, and the part that really does suck is the fact that you can see it from a road, but there just happens to be a big ass river in the way. If they could get like the local tourist board or somebody to like put a car park, you know, give it basically like just a dirt parking lot or a gravel parking lot and like a pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
All right.
All of a sudden you'd probably have like, you know, an ass load of traffic going up there.
Oh, it's true. I've been down that dirt road, and it's 10 miles of just horrible dirt road to a terrible, super steep slope, logging road to the base. And that's why I went there and I hated it. Like, well, I mean, I loved the cliff and the climbing, and there was so many boulders at the bottom, but I just hated the fact that you can't get through the gate with the farmer that owns the gate there. He's a Seventh-day Adventist, and he closes it Friday night, and he doesn't open it till Sunday morning. That's an issue for anybody that's trying to be a weekend warrior there. And so with all those things, I came home and I started to just search just constantly on satellites, anything I could find.
I think that's the big thing you'll run into, like compared to something like Niagara Glen. It's got some great climbing, but if you want to be like finding stuff, it's not like you're occasionally, like, you know, Ethan put up a new route. Alex Magos, when he was in a couple of years ago, put up a couple of new routes, you know, Boulder problems, but there ain't a whole lot of stuff left to do. You know,
right. It's pretty tapped out there.
You know, whereas obviously if you find a new area that nobody's been, then it's like basically having like this broad canvas that you can create, kind of thing. Yeah.
So Brendan, describe the area.
It sits in the same alley as Eyeball, and it sits next to the Little White River, north of Elliot Lake. And it's just beautiful. The trees and the river that runs through it, with the road that runs right next to it. And there's cliffs everywhere. Not that you're going to always see them because there's trees in the way and stuff, but you hike through the woods and you're going to run into a cliff. It's obvious. You got walls of canyons on both sides, kind of.
So it has easier accessibility, is what I'm hearing, with the road right there. And so to the bouldering routes, how long of an approach?
Oh, sure, for sure. So for Goldmine, which is the main area that we're developing, it's a 2-minute approach to the first set of boulders. And so you park right there on the road. It happens, actually, there was a pull off where the trail starts already.
Nice.
We made the trail and stuff, but it happens that where the trail needed to be, there was a pull off. And from the pull off, it's a 2-minute walk to the first set of boulders. And then the next set of boulders, which is the main area, is another 2 minutes. So within 5 minutes, you are surrounded by, house-sized boulders.
And how many routes is it? in that area now?
Currently, there's 150, I think, at Goldmine put up in the last 3 years by a bunch of people, and it's got potential for at least 400 just at that zone alone. Not even like thinking about the zone that's 5 minutes down the road. So
that is so cool. So it's accessible. There's abundant rock there. Yeah, it's beautiful. And I heard this is Crown land, so you can camp.
Yes, it's Crown land, and so everything should be good from camping to, I think, from what I understand about Crown land, is you can kind of do whatever you want on it. I mean, you can't do whatever you want, but within reason, as long as you're respecting the land and such, you know, it shouldn't ever have an access issue.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And it's close to Eyeball by how far did you say it was?
It's about, well, if you want to go from the point where you can see Eyeball from the road, it's about 20-30 minutes down the road.
Okay. But if somebody was going to go up there for a week or so, you could have loads of fun if you're a boulder, plus you like to climb as well. And you mentioned there's the cliff. So there's opportunity for, are there folks developing the cliff already where you're at the Nooks?
No, so at the Nooks, the reason I kind of called it the Nooks instead of just Goldmine was because eventually I see that in 5 to 10 years down the road, it's going to be more than just a bouldering area. Like you got a sport cliff over there, probably some trad as well. And then on that same kind of cliff line that the Goldmine is on, there's a 200, 300 foot cliff as well right there. So multi-pitch. There's been some guys that developed some ice climbs on it already.
Wow.
So I see eventually that it's going to just blow up into everything.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I guess obviously this area is kind of probably more conducive to what Gus wanted for the Eyeball, because the Eyeball is amazing, but the problem is just the literally getting to it. So having, bouldering, sport climbing, enough stuff for some multi-pitch, all kind of in that same area.
Well, if you have a reason for people to dirtbag it out there for more than a few days or a weekend, then when the bridge is, the farmer's field or the entrance is open, you can go, right? You can have some variety. But I'm curious, the community, what's the population here? And do you think there's an opportunity to connect with the township to support something further here?
Yeah, sure. Like in Elliot Lake, you mean?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty decent sized town. It's got a hospital, which is really nice because you are kind of out in the middle of nowhere, or at least you feel like it. There's actually no light pollution and no noise pollution. You might see 2 cars a day actually out there. And you don't have cell phone service, but cell phone service is actually only 15 minutes down the road. And then the town 30 minutes away, and which has a hospital. Now, saying all of that, I am putting together a guidebook, which obviously we're going to talk about, but doing so, I've been in contact with some of the stores there. Kind of like in guidebooks, you might see like what restaurants are good to eat at and such like that. But with that, I've been in touch with, there's no climbing store or no outdoor store really. And so I found the closest one, and I kind of called them up and I was like, hey, would you guys consider like maybe carrying chalk and tape for climbers if this blows up, they can stop in your store. I'll put it in my guidebook, you guys can just sell this stuff. And they were very open to it, and they thought it was really cool, and actually had heard a rumor that somebody was developing climbing north of Elliot Lake, and they were interested enough to say that they have this hiking club, mostly teens to 20s, and that they would be very interested in me coming up to give like a speech on a stage to them about the area, about climbing in general, and try to restart that in Elliot Lake, because they actually used to have a climbing community from what I've heard. And it just went away as the owner got older, I think. So
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I think that's sort of always the trick with like small towns, is the momentum a lot of times is only like one person. So if they stop doing it, it's like poof, gone. Whether it's a cycling club, somebody developing mountain bike trails, climbing areas, it's almost like you have to reach this critical mass of enough out of towners coming in that then it sort of becomes self-sustaining. Because you look like an area, obviously it's much bigger, but like an area like the Adirondacks, it was one of those things where as the climbing, like the development of climbing grew, then you were getting more stores opening up, because, or selling the gear, it wasn't just tents and, sleeping bags. Then all of a sudden it's like downtown in Lake Placid, there were like 5 stores selling climbing gear. Then down in Keene Valley, you had the Mountaineer.
Oh my God, that's like the best climbing outdoor store I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah,
like, seriously,
we've been
small.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like it literally is in like this bumfuck town that's got like a restaurant, a diner, a coffee shop, a hiker hostel, because literally you can hike right from town right up into the mountains. But they've got like one of the best outdoor stores.
Yeah.
That has the biggest selection of like climbing gear, whether it's for ice, alpine, rock, and
and then they have maps and books about anywhere else in the world you want to climb.
Yeah,
that you can't find anywhere.
Yeah. But it's
yeah,
funny,
it is. But it's worth the stop.
But it's one of those things, it all is because enough people from out of town come in. Right, like the population between whether it's Lake Placid or Keene Valley, Elizabethtown, which is just over the hill, none of those would support it, but it's all of us tourists going, and obviously they're a little more accessible because it's like 5 hours from New York City, or something like that.
And that's not what even the Adirondacks is known for. They're known for hiking and backpacking.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not like climbing. It's so it's not even the primary industry, I would say.
No, not because more people hike than climb.
Yeah.
Right. Like hiking is just walking on dirt, so everybody does. Right. You look on people's Tinder profile, everybody hikes. Whereas climbing, you actually got to do some shit.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of cool because if you can develop an area that has enough that it's worthwhile for people to go to, then it sort of becomes a thing where like almost the local tourism board would want to get involved, because that's the kind of thing that brings people over and over and over. Not just somebody, I've seen it, so I'm not going back. And that's sort of the thing I found with climbing. It's like I've been to Red Rocks a lot of times. It's never going to run out of climbs. No. Down to whether it's like down in Slade, Kentucky, the Red is never gonna, like, I'm never gonna climb them all.
No.
And so when you get those kinds of areas that have a lot of potential, it can be the kind of thing that then, because climbers will travel.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, if we're gonna make the trouble outdoors, I want like big. I like big. Feels like an adventure.
So how did you get into bouldering? Was that your first introduction into climbing, or were you like, tell us about that?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I was in college, and I went to a small college, and I got I think half my scholarship paid. I was a long distance runner actually. And so I ran cross country and track, and my buddy, after my freshman season, which was terrible, I was getting burnt out. I kind of started to hate running, and he took me to the climbing gym, and that was it. I mean, when you know,
Yeah.
And so the first time I went into that gym, I climbed until I think I had flappers on every single blisters for people that don't know, on every single one of my fingers, all 10. And I super terrible hands back then, apparently. And I loved it so much. I went back the next day, and I had to tape up every single finger, but I went back the next day. So I quit running to climb.
Have you always been athletic? Have you always been like, when you get into something, you get into it super like dialed in and focused?
Oh, well,
obsessive?
Yeah, very obsessive with things. I was just thinking about that the other day. I think my wife, she rolls her eyes at me a lot whenever I try to get into something new, because if I'm going to do something new, I'm going to do it fully, like even making a guidebook.
Well, I was thinking about that, right?
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, which is awesome. Like, I love it, right? Because you're not just doing, and you don't have the experience, but you're like, screw it, I'll do it. I'll talk to Gus. He's a great person to talk to. And then you've gotten other people excited about it too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you're talking to Nooks, I've kind of led all of my friends there, drug them at points like, you have to come up, please come up. You have to see this area. I promise it's worth it. And they do. They come up. They love it as much. I see them fall in love with it, which is really cool. Like, you're skeptical. Like, even the people on the internet, Facebook groups, Ontario climbing groups. Like, I've posted pictures. I've just like called people up. Like, please come up. Like, I know it's 6 hours away. I know you can go somewhere else that's 6 hours away. But I'm telling you, it's worth it. But who trusts somebody on the internet? Like just words from some random person. I get it, but that's kind of what my friends and people in town were like until I forced them up there, and then you can just see it. They just fall in love with the area as they are there, and they will continue to go back year after year.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that is kind of cool is the idea of like basically this thing that didn't exist. Like, the rocks were there,
right?
But and for people that don't know, the rock, like people who've rock climbed, at established areas, they didn't start like that.
No.
Like, the trails just weren't there, right? Like, like, let's talk a little bit about like what has to go into developing an area, because obviously at some point you bushwhacked through the bush and went, oh, there's a bunch of rocks here. But then there's that process. Like, obviously you talked about putting in a trail. Then most rocks, when it comes to climbing, are not nice and clean. There might be a bunch of loose choss all over it that has to get trundled off. So let's talk a little bit, like, what, aside from just finding a bunch of boulders in the woods, what went into developing the area?
Wait. I do have a question about finding the boulders. Was it important for you that it was very close to the road?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, ideally.
Boulders are lazy. They have no cardio.
I mean, personally, I would walk an hour.
Yeah.
Now others wouldn't. And it didn't ever, just to your point, like, it didn't start off like, we have to find an area so others could come. We went up there just to like, hey, let's go find some boulders. Let's go climb. Like, let's go clean boulders. It might not be a huge area, but I'm sure the end goal was to find, the Mecca of bouldering, a huge area, but it wasn't the main focus at first, for sure.
Let's take people through, so you found some boulders in the woods, right? So from that point on, like, what goes into developing an area?
Yeah, so besides the obvious of the trail, because getting crash pads through the bush in Canada is like extremely difficult. So besides the obvious trails and cutting down small trees and brush and branches to get through and make the trail, the hardest part of the longest part, I think, is cleaning the boulders themselves. And I don't think people think about this, is that there's lichen, there's moss, there's loose rock. And even at the base for bouldering, at least, you have to sometimes build up the landings so they're flat and safe, especially for other people. We might have enough pads to build up the landing so it's nice and level, but other people might not. And so you kind of have to be conscious of that, like, especially if you're coming out with a guidebook, well, you want the landings to be good for other people. And so the landings take a long time to build up with stone, nice and smooth, or dig out places. Or especially even like when you cut down small trees, you got to make sure that you cut them all the way at the ground so they're not poking out. Because if you have a branch, you got a small tree that's sticking out this far and you land on that, that's going to hurt a lot. So it's just all the small things, which I learned a lot of it from Gus. Watching Gus in those 2 days at the eyeball, it was like, wow, this guy really cares. Every time he walks down the trail, he's snipping branches off with his fingers, just, around head height to make sure nobody pokes their eyes out. Mm-hmm. It's just small stuff like that that's very conscious. But the biggest thing is cleaning the boulders, which really sucks. And so I've never developed any sport or trad or multi-pitch. And so I just have experience with the boulders, but the boulders, to clean them, like, you can reach head height and above a little bit, but a lot of times these boulders are 20, 25 feet. Some of the bigger ones, they can be a lot smaller than that as well. But the taller ones where you can't reach, you either need a rope or a ladder. And so you need those tools to bring along with you. So you're bringing a ton of stuff with you just to clean a boulder, not even climb it.
Mm-hmm.
So how long does it take to clean a boulder? You said it's a long time, but how long?
If it's there is differences actually, to get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
If it's a vertical face or a slab face, and for anybody that doesn't know, I know you guys know, but I don't know what your audience is, but a slab face is anything that's less than vertical. So anything like your staircase, going up your staircase would be kind of a slab, but not that slabby. And then, so vertical to slab is really hard to clean. The whole thing, you can't even, most of the time up there, you can't even see the holds. It's just covered in lichen. And that stuff is hard to get off the rock. It takes a wire brush and usually a scraper as well. And then for overhanging stuff, the more overhanging it gets, the less stuff you have to clean off. There's not moss, there's usually not dirt. Usually it just takes a quick scrub and then you're good to go, which is great. But then every single boulder that you clean, the top of it is just covered in moss, usually hanging down off the edges. And up there, at least, it's really fun. I feel a little bad sometimes, but there's plenty of boulders in the woods that we'll never get to. So at the climbing area, it's okay. But what you can do is grab the edge of one and you roll it up like a carpet, and it literally rolls up like a carpet, like so big that I can't even put my arms around it. And then it just rolls off the other side of the boulder, leaving it perfectly clean.
Nice.
Yeah, because like obviously the top, anything that's less than vertical or any ledges, the top of a boulder, you get leaf detritus fall on it for years and years. It turns into dirt.
Right.
And so this is the thing that a lot of people don't realize. When we go climbing and you're on this like nice clean rock, literally somebody cleaned it. It doesn't exist like that naturally.
Mm-mm.
And it's a thing that a lot of people don't realize how much work goes into making rock climbable.
See, I think you could apply become a Canadian.
I can.
Yeah, I think you should. An honorary Canadian for all the work. Because I'm just thinking about how much time it takes. And you developed in the Nooks, was it 50 in a season?
I think the first season we were up there, I mean, we were just going crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's what I told you, and I was gonna double check that, and I didn't. But it was
something like that. I read that somewhere. Yeah. That's a lot of commitment.
Yeah.
You know? I'm just saying.
No, I don't know. We were just having a lot of fun that first year. And
that's awesome. And when was that? That was in 2018?
2019. 2019. Yep.
Okay. And of course, this is before COVID.
Before COVID.
And was it that same? So that was the end of 2019. We go into 2020.
COVID hits.
Full year. Yeah. So it's a full year later, right? Because when you went there, it was in the winter. Like you went and checked out Gus's eyeball. Immediately you went back, started researching on Google. Yes, went back down. And what made you pick that area? Was it because you were close to Gus? You thought, let's check out this area. I really like it. I just don't like the accessibility. Okay.
Yeah, I knew the eyeball was about 6 hours away. And so I wanted to search around the eyeball. Actually, I mean, I have, if you look at my Google Earth account, it's got like 300 different pins on it of different areas I've mapped out from different satellites that I've found or topographical maps, whatever, all over northern Ontario, from the Sault Ste. Marie, Batchewana Bay, all the way over to the Nooks. So,
well, yeah, it's a wise thing, you know, from the standpoint, if somebody's already found a 450-foot high cliff, the odds of there being some other rock around there,
yes,
you know, especially up in,
just saying, it's here.
You know, the odds of there being something else in the area is pretty high.
Yes,
it's just finding it, you know. Yeah, and that's sort of one of those things you'll run into because it's Canadian Shield. We know everything. Every hill is, you know, not that far under the dirt is a bunch of granite.
Right.
So then the trick is just finding stuff that's steep enough that isn't covered in like 3 feet of dirt, you know, topsoil.
For sure.
You know, and I think it's one of these things that's kind of cool, like the almost not specifically from a money-making standpoint, but it's almost entrepreneurial in the idea of, well, I don't have it here, so I'm just gonna like cross the border and find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, because was there like an attraction, you know, of as opposed to going places that, you know, obviously are developed already? Was there an attraction to, you know, discovering and creating yourself?
Yes, but not something I really realized for a while. Mm-hmm. So for a long time, I was probably like most climbers, still am, I guess, to a point where, you know, you want to, have fun, obviously, go to these amazing developed places. And I was definitely chasing grades. Living in Michigan, it's hard to chase grades. It's not something we can do, like go work on our weekend project, you know, an hour away from our house. We don't have that option. So, you know, we got to take these long weekend trips down south and such. And so that's definitely like what I focused on for a long time until this kind of happened. And, you know, it was quite obvious that I fell in love with the Canadian forest and the rock up there. And honestly, the type 2 work that it took to clean and climb the boulders. But the feeling of getting a first descent of something that no one has ever touched was just so cool. And I wanted to keep pursuing that over and over and over again, above anything else, above any trip to Red Rocks or Bishop or Chattanooga, anywhere I could go to those places. I could definitely do that instead of going to the Canadian forest, the middle of nowhere, and freezing my butt off at least late fall. But I don't know, I love it so much.
So you must have always been an outdoors person then. Like, obviously, some climbers are not, right? Like they come in with their, in Adirondacks, we'll see them, right? And we'll they're like, they got really nice vans or cars, whatever.
Yeah, they only camp just because there's nothing else on.
Or they don't have the money, right? But obviously for you to go into the Canadian wilderness and be there that much as you have been, I'm going to guess you have some outdoors experience.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
My parents were always taking us into the woods. My dad is a huge hunter and fisher, so I grew up hunting and fishing. And honestly, like climbing definitely took over from those things more than probably most of my family would like. But I still enjoy doing those activities as well, and I wouldn't change my childhood for anything. Growing up, walking through the woods, hunting with my dad, fishing, camping, going on hikes, like we did a lot of it, even though, we are city folks, so it wasn't something we did like all of the time, but we definitely, like, hunting season came around, we were up at our cabin every weekend. Hello.
Hi, we hear you. We don't see.
We're back. Oh,
there we go.
There we go.
I'm not sure what happened, but it's all good. That was weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
I blame Bill Gates and the microchips.
Yes, we couldn't hear you anymore.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And we're like, can you hear us?
Sometimes I wish I could do that with Winston, where I just can't hear him anymore.
Mute.
Well, you do that anyway. You don't listen. So it's the same as not hearing. But for
So how's your relationship? You said that.
Yeah, this is the thing. You better have a good relationship if you're going to do a podcast with your girlfriend.
I did question, like, I was that a really good idea?
Right. How long have you guys been doing this?
3 years.
Long.
Yeah.
3 years.
No, it's been great.
So
what's your range of climbing? Because I gather you're quite an accomplished climber. Like you've been.
It just depends. I just did a survey on my Instagram about this, but I've climbed V13, but that goes without saying that I am not a very good slab climber. I'm probably only a V6, maybe I could project a V7, 8 on slab, and then on something overhanging, very powerful, very muscly. I've climbed V13, whatever that means. I don't live by rocks, so I don't get to project something for a full season like people in Chattanooga or whatever. I have to do my climbs within a day or within 2 days of effort, usually within an hour or 3. So
okay. And so the climbs here at the Nooks, it ranges from what to what?
We got everything from V0, so very easy, to V13, which I did on the last day, the last hour before leaving, before basically the snow fell, like a month and a half ago.
Nice.
So yeah, it was quite surreal.
And how long did it take you to project that? Or
yeah, so the stand start goes at V11, and that took me 2.5 trips to do, I think, the V11. It's different with putting up a first ascent, especially a hard first ascent. It's different than going to climb a V11 or anything down south or any established climbing area, because you don't know the beta. Usually you can look up the beta on your phone and see the easiest way to do a climb. When you're doing a first ascent, you have no idea what the best way is. And so you got to figure it out. So that adds a ton of time into it. So that V11 took me 2.5 days. And then we came back for our long trip, which that's when we shot video, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But the V13 sit start to it, which added about a V10, V11 into the stand, that took me 2 more days of effort. I didn't think it was going to go for me this season. Actually, I kind of put it off. So I projected it from the low. Sorry if this is too long. Let me know. But,
no.
So
we've got like climbing nerds who listen.
Okay, so I projected the low start for a few hours on the 2nd or 3rd day that we were there, and I wasn't really close to doing the moves, any of the 3 hard moves, and I kind of came close to hitting the holds and was like, wow, that's really hard, but I don't think so. Like, we should go film like other things, probably, until Dylan Elliot from Toronto came up to join us. He was the only one. I reached out to so many people to come up, like, we're shooting a film, like, please come up. And he was the only one that came up. And he came up, and he's a very strong climber and a trainer in Toronto. And he got me really motivated. I was watching how hard he was trying, and like was like, wow, I should, you know what? I'm going to concentrate on my project. Like, he motivated me a lot. So I kind of buckled down. I took a full rest day, and came back and sent it first go on our last day. So it was pretty special.
So when you come over to the Nooks, how long are you staying at a time on average? Like 5 days, 3 days, a weekend?
Usually a long weekend is the typical trip. The 6-day trip, that was way longer than normal, and that was 6 days of climbing, 6 nights, and that was pretty miserable. It got down to, well, you guys use Celsius, but
we understand Fahrenheit.
It was down in the low 20s at night. So
okay, so it's like just above freezing.
No, it's below freezing.
No, way below. It was below freezing.
32 is freezing.
So what do you do?
Yeah, 32. 32. Yeah.
Do you
So
tent or
-10.
do you hammock?
Yeah.
Sorry, you tent?
tent.
You tent. Okay. Yeah, we're hammock campers. So yeah. I was gonna ask you, so the video came out, it's really cool. And
the video didn't come out.
No, I'm just saying that though.
Oh no.
See, she's being all slick like.
No, but I saw a draft and I thought it was pretty cool. And I saw your first intro video. So I'm just saying it's fucking cool. So anyway.
Okay. Cut, start over.
No, I'm keeping this. So I'm gonna say it's cool. And I think it's getting a lot of people stoked. And so now we've got this 15-minute video that just came out as well. So what's the call to action here? What would you like people to do?
Well, I really like everybody to watch it. We put a lot of time and effort into it. Is like a total personal project. So I got these 2 buddies that came, I kind of got them to come up to the Nooks once on a different trip, and they fell in love with the area. And on our way back from that trip, we were all talking in the car, and one happens to be a professional videographer who literally does that for a living. That is all he does. And he doesn't shoot climbing films, but he's been a lifelong climber of 20 years, and he has always wanted to shoot a climbing film. And I don't remember who suggested the initial idea, but the idea was put out, like, we should do a climbing film, like an actual legit one, no sponsors. We'll shoot it. We'll get people to be in the video up at the Nooks. It'll be a good way to get the information out there, people psyched. And so that was that for about 5 minutes. And then we kept thinking, probably all in our brains. And again, I think it was DJ, the videographer, who kind of like looked in the back seat and was like, wait, Stylus. That's the guy in the back seat. Don't you love music and like more than you love climbing? And Silas was like, yeah, like I play like 12 instruments. And DJ was like, well, why don't you just do the music for it? And so that's kind of how it happened. Like Silas was doing the music, DJ filmed it all and edited and put it together, and I was kind of nothing besides the climber. I was the guy that found the area and did the development. So
that's beautiful. So he actually did the music himself.
Yep, everything's original. It's original music score, I guess is what it's called.
Nice. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
because I think that's one of the things, like any of us that have been climbing for a while, like it's the real rocks, right? Like nothing gets you stoked more than good climbing videos, right? Like obviously we've been kind of spoiled over the last little while because you got the free solos and the dawn walls. Like all of a sudden people are going, yeah, there's money in this climbing thing, so we'll fund like feature films.
Yeah.
But it's before that it was always those, kind of gritty
skateboard punk type climbing films. Yeah.
And you just like, it just makes you want to climb, makes you like, sometimes it's falling in love with an area, sometimes it's falling in love with like the training side of it, of like, man, I got to get stronger, or just the activity itself. And, so it's kind of cool to have a new area developing in concert with kind of, that, I don't want to call it history, but, obviously creating kind of something that gets people stoked. Right? Yeah. Because that's really, because if you think about like, and I've talked about this before, like when it comes to climbing, it's like we're doing a thing that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Right. That's like when you're doing it, it's the most important thing in the world to you.
You're conquering yourself.
Yeah, but that's really what it is. Like it is like this total internal journey.
Yeah.
Right.
So the idea of then being able to, somehow capture it, that makes it something that other people get excited about, is really, I think, kind of cool, because we run into, first, obviously, modern life right now, especially with the pandemic, for a lot of people, it's just a bummer. So something kind of cool that gets people stoked.
And to discover more of.
Yeah.
I think that's what your place offers.
So your guidebook, when...
Wait, before you get there. No, what do you want people to be stoked about the area? My question is, I'm like ready to pack up my kids and say that we're going up to the Nooks and we're going to help out. And
it's going to be cold as shit.
I have two questions. My first question is, when is the best time to go? Because I'm not a bug person, I'll be honest with you. I mean, black flies, horse flies and deer flies.
Yeah, for sure. June and July are not the times to go. And I think a little bit before that as well. But I have personally had really good luck in the spring up until June.
Okay.
And then skipping July, and then skipping probably part of August. But then the rest, fall is amazing up there.
Especially because it gets cooler. So it's like Rocktober is now in end of August.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Theoretically.
I'm just saying, it extends the climbing season.
You mean September?
September, yeah.
September.
It's
yes,
September,
I know.
then Rocktober.
I know that, but it's the idea that it's better climbing. Okay, so that's the time of the year. And then my other question is, what do you want people to do for you? Aside, again, do you want to just climb? Are you looking for volunteers to help out with stuff?
No, I don't think so. I think we're getting a Thunderbox from somebody else for the area. Man, I mean, the most people could do is talk about it, honestly. Maybe buy the guidebook and go up there. If you want an adventure, if you want to get out and get away from, society and your phone for a weekend, just go up there. Maybe you're not even a climber. It's beautiful. There's hiking up there. There's just so much to do, or so much to see, at least, especially during fall time. Oh my gosh. Nice. It's so beautiful.
And obviously it's on Mountain Project, so we'll put a link in the show notes, so people can check it out and find their way, because it's No, I assume on Mountain Project you've got, because I'd assume you're the one that created the Mountain Project listing. Half decent directions to get there, because I looked at it, but I didn't.
Yeah. So from what I can tell, the people that have used the directions on either Mountain Project or Climb Sudbury has also directions on it.
Okay.
ClimbSudbury.com. They've had no issues finding the boulders, finding the area whatsoever. The directions are as clear as I could make them, because I know there's no self coverage up there. So
perfect. And it's one of the things, and I don't know if you've heard this before, and but what you like, or who you remind me of, just sort of in the way both you look a little bit and the way you talk, is Tommy Caldwell.
I was gonna say that.
Oh, what? That's a compliment. I'll take it.
Yeah, like let's see your hands. Okay, it's obviously not Tommy, because yeah, but you got both index fingers, so
shoot, I should have done this.
Well, because you do work with like wood.
Yeah.
So missing a finger in a bandsaw accident wouldn't be
Nope, not out of the question for sure.
Yeah. Which would be terribly mean if it wasn't for the fact that the guy's still a crusher.
Right.
He overcame. So so now it's one of those things, like obviously both sort of mannerism and look you've got. So now all you have to do is in Kyrgyzstan throw a guy off a cliff after kidnapping you and lose a finger, and then make the big comeback, and then you're all set.
Oh, perfect. I'll get on that next year.
So I want to know, when are you back up?
When am I back up there? As soon as the snow melts. Personally, I have a little button on my home screen that has the closest like webcam that shows the highway, the transcontinental highway, the closest one to the Nooks, and that's my snow calculator. This tells me when the snow melts and when it's time to go.
Nice.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. God bless the internet. Like the fact that it's like, I want to see what the snow conditions are, or whether the snow is gone. Webcam. Oh, that looks pretty good.
Oh, I have one more question. So you're obviously a big boulder. You've been doing this for a while. You've traveled. How would you compare the Nooks to other locations?
Right. So it's not Squamish, first off, and I've never tried to make it to be Squamish or the Red or any of these, Waco, Bishop. I've never tried to make it be that, but I think for sure it's some of the best climbing you can find in Ontario. Even though I haven't done the climbing, I have verified that with the people that have been up there that say this is better. This is better than Cal Boogie. This is better than Niagara. It is legit. It is great. And so what I see it as, especially as like the sport and the trad and the multi-pitch grow up there, is it's kind of like a mini Squamish where it's like, hey, come here. Yeah,
Hey.
you don't have 2 weeks to go take a trip to Squamish, but you got a long weekend or 5 days or even a weekend, like shoot up to the Nooks, because it's going to be the best place that you can go within driving distance, at least for like the Toronto people, if that's who we're talking about.
Yeah, because if you're really talking basically everybody between, Detroit and Toronto, you're talking, and obviously Grand Rapids, over your way too, but you're talking millions of people.
Yeah.
Because obviously Toronto is like 5 million. I don't know how big Detroit is anymore, but
I don't know. I don't either.
But it's a fair sized city.
Yeah.
But then you run into the thing where it's like everything in between, right? Like our area's like 500,000. Hamilton's not far from us, which is another 500,000, and
there's a lot of climbers there.
Yeah. Well, we've got in our area, we got 2 climbing gyms.
Are there like 10,000 members on the OA? Is it OAC? Yeah. On the OAC.
Like the Ontario Alliance of Climbers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's climbers that are members, but that's a big number in just a small area.
That is. That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it gets out to, I mean, at least some of those climbers, you know, maybe they're inspired by this, maybe they're inspired by the film, and they take the chance to go up and check it out, because I'm not lying. It is the best climbing you'll find in Ontario. At least that place, along with a place an hour, 2 hours away, Waco, is also being developed. It's a different bouldering area, developed by somebody else. And both of those areas they're just phenomenal.
Nice.
No, that's really cool. Like, and I think
we should go check it out.
Yeah. So
the crazy part is that, like, man, say you don't want to camp outside. Say you don't want to do that. Well, I mean, you could stay in Elliot Lake. It's only a 30-minute drive to the Boulders. Like, that's not that crazy. Like, if you go to the Red and you climb down in the Red and you camp, you still have at least a 20-minute drive to the area. I mean, it could be 5 minutes, I guess, but it, you know, people drive a lot further than that to go climbing for the day. It's not crazy. So it's very accessible, even for the people that don't want to camp. Just stay in the city. So
yeah.
I think it is. It's one of those kind of cool things, though, where it opens your eyes to think about what other potential there is that just hasn't been developed yet, too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, because it's sort of one of those things. You just sort of discovered something, and because you discovered, you went, hey, look, you know, you sort of hiked into the woods and you found some stuff, and it's like you put your flag down and went, okay, we'll start working here.
Yeah.
But then it's one of those deals of like, what else is there?
Well, the Goldmine, the 150 problems we've developed and 400 plus to go or whatever, like, that could be all, like, somebody could find something way better like 5 minutes down the road. You know, it's just that you can't find the boulders. You have to go walk to go find them. You know,
you just got to bushwhack into the leave the road.
I loved what you said when you wrote to me and you said, I just turned around. I'm like, I just want to find Goldmine. And there it was. And I think Gus said the exact same thing. I remember when we were talking to him, he was saying, like, I just want to find, let's go here. Mm-hmm. And then there it was. Right?
Yeah. We got so lucky. I mean, so lucky. We were climbing on like 10 boulders, like that first zone, the 2-minute walk from the car, just like 10 boulders there ish. And, you know, we were having fun. We were doing our thing. And we were like, well, you know, let's go walk this way, see what's up. And we walked that way and, you know, we found some stuff. It wasn't that great. And on the way back, I turned to my buddy and I was like, I just wish we could find the gold mine of rock climbing. And we walked back to the 10 boulders. We were kind of a little disappointed that we didn't find much else. So we were like, well, maybe we should hike that way.
Yeah, because I got to go take a pee. You're like, oh my God.
we walked that way for literally like 2 minutes and we ran straight into just boulder after boulder after boulder. Like, they are not spaced out. They are, the whole boulder field's within a 5-minute walk, 5, 7, 10. I don't know. It's really close together. And then just, they're right next to each other. You have to walk underneath boulders to get around other boulders. Wow. It's crazy. So.
Very cool.
And we missed it. We could have missed that. We could have just hung out at those 10 boulders and walked out and been like, well, that was fun. Mm-hmm. And had no idea that was right there. So.
Well, I think that's the thing for listeners as well. Like, you know, you never know what you can find until you explore.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think so many people are, whether it's climbing, you're going to places that people have developed already. You know, if it's hiking, you're going to established trails already. But especially with something like Crown Land, it's open to play with.
Very.
Right? And, you know, so for people, you know, leave no trace, obviously with certain exceptions, because obviously you got to clean boulders and, you know, clean routes and that kind of thing. But, you know, take out your garbage, bury your poop, you know, the stuff to make it sort of habitable for other people. But there's this sort of like almost unlimited potential once people start digging a little bit, you know, because you run into the thing, like there's so many areas that probably never even get sort of discovered because it's a little too far. You know, somebody hiked for half an hour and didn't find anything, where if they'd hiked for 45 minutes in the same direction, they would have found, you know, a canyon that would be, oh, this would be perfect, right?
You're an explorer.
Yeah,
exactly. I've struck out a lot, and I've had fun doing it, you know, or I've found sport climbs, you know, sport cliffs, but no boulders beneath them. It's like, well, that's a sweet cliff, but I have no interest in doing that. But yeah, I've struck out a lot, just walking through the woods, thinking, you know, doing my research, like, okay, this is going to be the most likely spot I'm going to find the next group of boulders, and it's just a dead end. Don't find anything, or might find a couple, but not worth it. So, but I always have fun doing it, just hiking out there, seeing the views, hiking to the top of the cliffs, stuff like that. So
no, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you sure you don't have like a GoFundMe page or anything like that, or?
Well, it's actually really cheap to do. Besides gas money, all you need is a wire brush.
Yeah. You know, but that actually is something maybe you think about for the guidebook. Like already pre-sell.
Well, yeah, not only that, but even like, honestly, like if you need more trails or signage, or, you know, I want to pack my kids in, and I'd love, my kids are 8 and 10. I'd love to take them on a trip where we spend like a week and we volunteer and do stuff, something outdoors, like build trails and, you know, obviously your time is limited, so you can't become like a project manager either, right? But yeah, if you hear of other groups, because you said that you mentioned other groups go up there and put up some routes, let us know, and we'll put them in the show notes if there's stuff going on, you know, that we can,
for sure,
other listeners can support.
Yeah.
That's one of the cool things about, you know, our audience, is that because they're into stuff, even if it's not something where they can specifically, they're in a position to be able to go, you know, because the dude from Texas or, you know, what have you. But we get a lot of people. Yeah, we get a lot of people who they want to sort of participate and further people's, you know, and it's such a cool kind of community. Yeah. You know, so and that's sort of one of the great things with the internet, is that whether obviously it's things like GoFundMe for, you know, if you can't get sponsors for the guidebook.
Oh, that's what I am now. I get it.
Yeah.
The guidebook. Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where I guarantee you get a pile of people pre-buying it, you know, with the GoFundMe type thing.
How much are you selling it for? Do you know yet?
That's interesting. No, I don't. We got to compile how many pages and et cetera. I'm like in the middle of finishing it right now. It's like all over the place. It's a mess, but we're getting there. I've had a lot of breakdowns, and Gus has had to talk me down from the ledge. But
well, listen, you know, you can't have a better mentor when it comes to creating guides.
No, I got the one. He's been you know, I guess this is a good segue just for me. I need to do this before we're done. So I have a lot of people to thank for this whole project. Like, it's not just me. I'm just kind of the guy that's like brute forcing this thing into existence with the guidebook, with Mountain Project. Like, all of my like countless hours I've spent trying to get the information out there to other people to just come enjoy the area with me. And so the people I need to thank is, like, one, Gus. We'll just start there. Like, it's been an amazing mentor on how to develop a climbing area correctly, how to build a guidebook, and just, he's been a great friend in doing all of these things. I've only met the guy once, and whenever we talk on the phone, which is maybe every other week, every month, whatever, like we talk for hours. So he's just an amazing guy. and secondly, like, I didn't do all of this stuff on my own. Like, I have to give a big shout out to Charlie Hall and Aaron Bopp, who were the people that came up with me to discover these things. It wasn't me. It was us together. Like, we did these crazy winter hikes to go find the boulders initially, or where we thought they would be, in the middle of winter. And then we just had a ton of type 2 fun, cleaning boulders, doing trails, blah, blah, blah. In that first 2019 season, like, big props to those guys. I'm just kind of the guy that's taken over, per se. And then one other shout out is Danny Planca. I hope I'm saying that right. I've never actually met him, but we've talked online for hours. He took over basically in the 2020 bouldering season when we couldn't go, when we were stuck here on the American side because of COVID. He took over with his crew of climbers, and they went up and they continued to like build the trails, like cut down the trees that like fell across the trails, clean boulders, and develop climbs, and doing it in a way where he had enough information for me where I knew what was up, I knew what he was doing, and I kept good records so I could create the guidebook that I'm creating now. So
nice.
That's awesome. Like, it really is one of those things where again, it's that community, right? Where it's you might have one person that's like a bit of a driver, but without all the different people that put their time and effort into it, it never really comes to life, right? Because, unless you're like, independently wealthy, where you don't need to go to your job and you don't have a family, because it's the same kind of thing. Like, Gus discovered the swamp, and the years, he discovered the area, but it was like him and his wife and Nate and like all of the different people, cleaning and developing and bolting and building trails and, just like an army to make it come to life, so yeah, it's such a cool thing, because I think there's not a lot of other sports where you get to leave something, and that's something that's super cool with First Ascents and developing areas, is like it's that kind of thing where you actually get to give back to the community, right? Because it's like, here is a thing, please use it. And
exactly, and that's been a huge driving thing very recently. It's been a shift. Like, I'm only 30. I have only been climbing for 7 or 8 years now, but like this weird shift of like, okay, how can I give back, and how can I do it in a way where I actually want to do it? Like, there's things that like you like and don't like, and I don't want to do the things I don't like, and so I like developing. So like, how can I do this in a way to give back the best way I can? And that's just to spread the word as much as I can, to get people to create this whole area and to bring people, and maybe even create the climbing community create a climbing community in Elliot Lake again, like with that hiking club.
Nice.
that might be interested in climbing. That would be really cool to just see like a new climbing community to spring up because some crazy guy from Michigan decides to, drive 6.5 hours into Canada to clean some boulders. It'd be really cool.
Thank you. Well, thank you on behalf of the listeners. Thank you so much. And this guy deserves a Canadian citizenship.
At least a bottle of maple syrup.
Something. But
oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. This was fun. This was brand new to me, and I think I did okay.
Another first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First Ascents, first podcast, same thing.
Yeah. Cool. Stay in touch, and yeah.
So, and everybody, check the show notes for video and mountain project links, and Brendan's Instagram, and a guidebook whenever it comes out.
We'll update it.
Yeah. You know, because it's one thing to get people excited about something, but now we want to have places to send them. And then it's one of the things where go on a map, look up Elliot Lake. This is just sort of, you know, as a rough idea, and then go up from there.
30 minutes north.
Yeah.
Yep. 546 highway. But thank you guys so much.
No problem. Thanks for being on.
Cheers.
And remember,
Work hard.
play dirty. That's right.